Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our college application process overview with Miss Maria Friss. We are so excited to have her here. Just want to give you a little background about Miss Friss. So she is the College Sesame founder and principal college admissions counselor. Her purpose is connecting students to options that fit their interests, their ambitions, and potential. She's a graduate of Colgate University and Teachers College at Columbia University. Maria has demonstrated history of producing excellent college application results in merit and financial aid awards exceeding 1 million and enrollment in top universities. A partial list of colleges for Maria's students include Babson, Bard, Barnard, Boston College, Carnegie Mellon, Colgate, Columbia University, College of Holy Cross, Cornell, Dickinson, Dartmouth, Fordham, George Washington, Haverford, Hobart, Macaulay Honors at Baruch, Mount Holyoke, Muhlenberg, NYU, Northeastern, RPI, Smith, St. Lawrence, Stanford, Stevens, Trinity, Tulane, University of Pennsylvania, University of Wisconsin-Madison, University of Virginia, University of Vermont, and Vassar. So before I turn this over to Ms. Friss, I just want to let everyone know if you do have any questions, please feel free to hold them to the end and put them in the chat for us. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Friss.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate that introduction and welcome to everyone. I'm so pleased that you were able to join. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, not just because I'm also a parent, but because I've been working with students probably close to about 50 years now. Did I say 50? Yes, I did, both as a parent and as an admissions and college counseling professional, both in schools, that includes university, on the university side, as well as the high school side. Haven't yet worked in an elementary school, but who knows, that may be in my near future. Working with kids is something very important to me. I believe in the value of education, and like the logo of my for my company, College Sesame, states, I'm really loving the idea of college doors opening for kids, and that is something that I'm here to help with. Hopefully, you will get some good information to help your kids progress to the next level of college applications. So with that, I would like to welcome parents and students alike, and I want to thank Nicole again for manning, basically powering through with the chat room. That chat is going to be very important, and I want to start us off with putting in a little information to help us out. So parents and students, you know that parents, first I want to address this to you, you know what your school, what your kids love to do, what they're doing in school, right? You know what their likes are, what their hobbies are, things that you see them all about. So what I'd like to do is ask you, which of these characteristics, okay, just to start, do your kids maybe identify with, or do you think that your students display when they are home with you, or they're at school, or they're with their friends? Do they, for instance, do they enjoy discussing ideas? Do they love drawing? Do they like watching YouTubes on how to do things? Do they love fixing cars? Do they love to read? Do they really care about people? Have they had this trait, really wanting to help people out? And have they shown that over the years since they're young children? Are they curious? Do they display curiosity? Are they curious? This is supposed to be a magnifying glass and a fossil. So some kids are really into science, for instance, or robotics. Let us know what your kids are into and what characteristics that they display. And there are no right or wrong answers, just looking for a sense of what your kids are like, their special qualities. Students, if you're on this call, let us know what you're about, what you think makes you special, what you love learning about, what you are curious about, maybe what you want to study, what you want to go on to study in college. So if you could share that for the next couple of seconds in the chat room, that would be great. And Nicole, thank you for just taking a look at that. Some of you are going to know right off the bat that your kids are really into these things. right? So I want to applaud the parents that are really kind of observing, even though you're so busy, even though you're working hard, you're doing all the things that you're doing for your kids. You're also watching them, you're watching them grow, you're watching them progress, and you have a sense of how they're doing in school. So I want to applaud you for everything that you're doing for your students, and students maybe take the time to appreciate what your parents are doing for you, whether it comes to to school, to your friends, to meals, keeping you safe. These are all really important things. So I want to just mention my involvement with college counseling and flipping over the hat. I mentioned before, I'm also a parent. I have raised already 3 young men, the last of whom just graduated from college 2 years ago. So they are all graduated, working, hopefully good citizens, good contributing working citizens to society. I'm really proud of that. So I'm sort of, beyond that stage of college applications as a parent. But just as for example, showing you this slide with some kids that are near and dear to my heart. These are some of the college kids. Some of them are already graduated from Columbia and some going into college or finishing up college. These were some of the kids that were involved in some of my summer programs, working with 7th and 8th graders. These were the supervisors. So my experience really does extend to working with kids almost like they're my own. And so I really have that as a blessing in my life and something I've been able to do, not just at Columbia, at both the Double Discovery Center, but also Community Impact, which is the largest volunteer organization working with Columbia University's undergrads and graduate students, and also at a few high schools, including the Humanities Prep Academy, actually, in Chelsea, New York. Just another shot about, how kids, once they're feeling comfortable, they can really start to show their spirits. So when I asked about attributes before and qualities, some of the things that were not on that slide had to do with things in their personality, right? What are some aspects of your kids' personalities that are beloved, that you admire, that you like in them, as people, as human beings? So I wanted to draw some parallels between that and what some of the qualities are that I have also prized in kids working with them over the years. This includes dependability, high energy, right? Personality, a comfort, really a nice comfort level with being able to stretch, beyond their comfort zones, to be able to solve problems when things don't always go according to plans, right? They're really good typically with their hearts. They've got very generous and willing hearts. They give very generously of their time. And oftentimes I've been amazed by the level of persistence that they have when trying to help a kid like them or younger than them persevere through, the rough patches of school, right? Whether it involved bullying or issues with teachers. Oftentimes it relates to social aspects. I've seen kids, young and older kids, really shine through some of these problems and really become great mentors to other kids. So this is the kind of, these are the kinds of attributes and personality traits that are really, really prized, not just for people, not just for society, but of course for college, right? So I want to get us onto the right track where it comes to what are the attributes that colleges are looking for in their applicants. So parents, students that are on, why college, right? What is this thing that is college? There's a lot of press, there has been a lot of press about, the value of college, the cost certainly of college, but I want to throw out the question to you all. Maybe you'd like to respond in the chat, say why college is important and why you think that it is valuable and meaningful and why you would like your kids to engage. Feel free to put that in the chat. Some of the ideas that we already may know about why we think college is a yes is that it opens doors, creates career opportunities, not just job opportunities for the immediate future, but long-term opportunities for career. There's very solid research that associates higher pay, for the most part with college educations and masters and advanced degrees. Certainly will widen the network, right? Our personal and professional network. Creates friends in different places, and it certainly expands our horizons. So parents, if we buy into that, if we say, yes, these are good reasons why we want college for ourselves or our children, then comes the question, if we want college, what are some of the obstacles or the challenges that relate to getting into college, right? To actually going through the process, being able to know which college to enroll in, which college to apply to. So again, parents, I want to challenge you, put in the chat box, what are some things about college and the idea of college for your students that you may be concerned about, you may be worried about? Okay, and these are, if you could see some of the little visuals here, this can maybe spark some thoughts. Dollar signs, transportation. There's a clock here. This is a maze. Okay, so what are some of the things we parents worry about? I certainly hear about the high cost of college. I've certainly gone through that as a single parent raising 3 children. I worried about how am I going to be able to put these kids through college, right? On my salary. How am I going to do that? What does it mean to get enough financial aid that my kids will be able to go and graduate? I've worried about, and I've heard from hundreds, probably thousands of parents over the years about the maze, how hard the application process can seem to be. Maybe you're saying, I don't know how my kid would do after they leave home, right? So for most of their lives, I have helped them with elementary school, starting with kindergarten, right? All the way up through 8th grade. I've been present, I've taken them to school, I've walked with them, I've driven them, or they've taken the bus, I walk them to the bus stop. But now, right, you'll be in a situation where you're seeing your kid go off to a new environment, maybe even to a different part of New Jersey or out of state. Or in some cases, for those kids that want something really different, they may go cross country, across to California or down south to Texas or up to Michigan. So these are things that we worry about. How will our students do once they have an opportunity to go to college? So that brings me to the question of what is a good college and how can one define a good college? There's one aspect of college and defining what makes a good school, in quotes, that I want to focus on today. There are really 3 factors, but the first one, and the one I'm going to spend time on, is the graduation rate. And that is the rate that kids graduate from an institution in 4 years. Okay. That rate is important, and I'm going to define what that means. Okay. Another example or definition of a good college is the percentage of students who graduate from a college and who are then, after they graduate, employed in their chosen field, in their profession of choice, or they are attending graduate school. They've applied and gotten into a graduate program, medical school, for example, law school, dentistry school, optometry school, after they graduate. So these are 2 really good measures as a second definition of what constitutes what makes a good college. And a third measure, what makes a good college, is a percentage, a rate that a lot of parents don't actually look into, but it's important from a college counseling perspective. And that is the rate of retention. And that is really on the school side, how good is a school? How good is a college at keeping their students, at retaining their students, right? So the rate of retention is, what is the percentage of students that are returning to that college after they complete their first year, right? Or their second year? Is that a high number? Is that close to 100%? That those kids that have been admitted and have completed their first year are coming back? Or is that a really low number? right? So parents really take a moment to think about looking for schools and evaluating schools based upon that retention rate, because you do want to have schools on your kids list, on your students list, that have a high rate of retention, because it means something really good is happening. The schools are doing their job and the students are doing their job as well. Okay, so it's kind of a two-way street. So those are three measures, three statistics that I mentioned. But I also want to just focus within our time frame here on the graduation rate. So the idea of a good graduation rate. What is a good graduation rate? Well, one would think, okay, let's just have a theoretical college, right? Let's say Barnard College, which is part of the Columbia University group, right? It's the female-powered college. Let's say Barnard accepted 2,400 students, right? 2,400. And only half of them, so 50%, graduated. Is that a good graduation rate? And this is not the case for Barnard, by the way, but I just want to throw out that question. And if you could put in the chat, let us know, please let us know, is a 50% 50% graduation rate a good rate, you think, for a rate of graduation? Or not? It is not. Okay. What about 75%? Is a 75% graduation rate good? That means 3 out of 4 students, as opposed to half of the students who enroll. So this means 3 out of 4 students who enroll actually graduate. That would seem a little bit better, right? The rate of graduation is better. The idea of half of the students starting a college and then not graduating doesn't seem so appealing, right? It doesn't seem like a strong number. If you said no, 50% is not a good number, I would agree with you. I would absolutely agree. So the idea of what is a good college can be answered in their graduation rate. And I wanted to share a couple of schools right here in New Jersey that do have graduation rates over 70% on this slide. And you could see at the top is Princeton University, a private school, private college. And then you could see the State University of Rutgers with an 81% graduation rate, pretty good, right? The New Brunswick can boast 81% graduation rate. The College of New Jersey, you could see 87%. Stevens, right across the way here in Hoboken, 83%. And the Newark campus of Rutgers, 73%, right? So these are schools with pretty high percentages, and yet you don't see 100% graduation rate, right? So just take a note of that. 100% would be ideal, but you don't often find that a college, even the best ones, will have 100% rate, because there are just so many things going on with students that they experience throughout those 4 years that make it very rare for a school to be able to boast 100% rate. But 97% sure is good, right? NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology in Newark, boasts an 81% graduation rate, pretty good. And then there are schools that you may know about, very strong in sports, also with medical programs. They have a pre-med program that's actually it's really gained in the rankings, is Seton Hall. They have a 67% graduation rate. You may know of New Jersey City University, over in Jersey City, 66%. So these are approaching that 70%. They're approaching that, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what local schools here in New Jersey have the higher graduation rates. I did not include any schools with the 50% or below. Okay, as a counselor, we would rarely recommend a school like that unless they had a specific program, for instance, an engineering program or a pre-med program, for instance, where the rate was actually quite high and different from the general rate of graduation. But just to qualify that a little bit. Okay, so those are a few good colleges with their graduation rates. Another definition of a good college. These are the colleges where students can actually complete their first degree, otherwise known as an associate's degree, in 2 years, right? And they would have an opportunity upon graduation and earning that associate's degree, they'd be able to start working in their chosen career, start earning really good money immediately, And for example, I'm going to take the example of nursing, licensed practical nurse and LPN. After passing the boards, that professional is going to be able to start working as a nurse in a hospital or another institution, right? So here's the other part. If that professional, after working, decides to go back and go on to earn the baccalaureate or the 4-year degree, those 2 years would transfer over, right? So they could build on the success of their associate's degree and keep on going for the 3rd and 4th year to earn that Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science, depending upon what profession they were leaning towards. Okay, so that is really attractive. They also know, these professionals that have started to work with the associate's degree, they also have a better sense of what they really like and don't like. And using that same example of nursing, they're able to determine, for instance, what they might want to specialize in. So I've worked with a lot of nursing students in the past who realized that they really wanted to work with kids, for example, and went into pediatrics, or they went into neonatology. They really wanted to work with the preemies, right? So that's an example of building upon a 2-year degree to keep on going for a 4-year degree. And I love this this point in my presentation, because this is really an example of doors that are already swinging wide open for you students, for families, for you parents that are supporting them. And you could see hopefully you could see this in my logo. This is a door opening. So I really do, I'm a 100% believer in a community college to start if that is the best option for your student. Even better, we in the Garden State, we in New Jersey, are able to take advantage of free tuition at any one of the 18 community colleges for that associate's degree. So New Jersey is actually very progressive in education among the 50 states. And that means that your student meeting some requirements are able to take advantage of this free tuition to earn their associate's degree in whatever field they want to pursue at any one of the 18 community colleges throughout New Jersey. And I'm going to shout 2 out within this presentation: County College of Morris and County College of Essex. Okay, this gets even better. If finances are tight for a family, which these days I am very aware that this is a big consideration, you can take some heart, some confidence in knowing that starting with this fall 22, there is a new program called the Garden State Guarantee, which means that if a student decides to go back for that 3rd and 4th year, they will be able to go tuition free to earn that Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science. So there are some requirements to be able to take advantage of this free tuition program. And I'll speak a little bit more about it, but one of them is filing the free application for federal student aid, otherwise known as the Fafsa. Hopefully, if you are a parent of a junior or senior, you already know this term, and this is the federal government's application that all parents must submit in order to be eligible for any kind of aid as well as scholarships. Okay, this application, which is either online or on paper, this application will produce something for your students that's called a student aid report. The student aid report will basically give you a number. And this is the number that all the parents that have submitted the FAFSA are like, what's my EFC going to be? What is the EFC? The EFC is the expected family contribution. And that number is the number that the federal government feels that a family is able to afford and contribute to their students' education. That number can be anywhere from $0 to $100,000 and more. The good news is, if a family's EFC is 0, that means that they don't have the money to apply to the college. They have other things they need to take care of, right? That means if their income, for instance, is $65,000 or less, they're going to be eligible for full tuition, covered free. If it's over 65,000, there's a sliding fee scale that would be applied. So not to worry, if you are over that amount, or if you're under, you're going to be able to take advantage of this Garden State Guarantee Program. Okay, so I just want to take a minute to let that kind of percolate. This is really a door wide open in terms of not being able to, or not having to worry about the cost of college. Okay, this is affordability taken care of. So I mentioned before, I wanted to shout out two county colleges in particular as having very strong, oops, so sorry, I just lost my presentation. About their outcomes. And one of them is the Morris County College. I actually hope you can see this. Nicole, are you able to see this screen?
Yes, I am.
Just wanted to detail some of the programs that just give them a shout out for some of the things that are available. Everything from journalism to electronic engineering. Nursing is there, as I mentioned, lots of things relating to education and teacher education, public health, world languages, etc. So I wanted to shout out Morris County Community College for their quality of programs and also for their outcomes, high rates of graduation after the first 2 years. The second school I've mentioned some of the degree programs, but just because I made a slide, let me just mention again. So there's biotechnology as a degree program. So this is, again, your student earning a degree in biotechnology, right? Computer information systems, which is anything relating to technology, super hot, electronic engineering, hospitality management that has to do with that industry for hotels, cruises, that's really on the comeback now, especially after what we've been through with the pandemic. Mechanical engineering is always super prized because of that mathematical ability that the students display. So that's Morris County College. Okay, I mentioned Essex County College, also with very strong degree programs in accounting, business administration. They have a strong pre-med track, nursing I mentioned, and something that I really want to give a huge shout out to, and this is something that affects all of us. If we have a phone, if we're on any kind of computer, if we're doing basically anything relating to apps, and this relates to cybersecurity and network technology. Cybersecurity is the protection of our personal information, right? So we hear all about hacking and what that means for this information to get into the wrong hands. This is a huge opportunity. If you have a student that is interested, who is good with numbers and problem solving, like I mentioned. Maybe they've tried coding. Maybe they really love, solving problems, as I mentioned, but they're really into the details of math. They have a strong physics background, maybe the sciences, STEM is their thing. They love, again, taking credit for a problem solved. This is going to be one of those programs that could really be attractive to them as technology really continues to rule our lives in the future. Okay, I want to also mention that not to worry if not a citizen, New Jersey Dreamers who are also applying to and are able to enroll in the colleges, they're also eligible for state financial aid through New Jersey. And as long as they've attended high school here in the state for 3 years, they're able to go through an alternate pathway so that they are eligible for the same financial aid that will make tuition free for these programs, okay, for the Garden State Guarantee. The Higher Education Authority, state authority for New Jersey, will determine eligibility. And normally that might be something that would cause some people, sort of like to get worried, but I will say this. This administration has certainly made a commitment to opening some of the doors that had been shut in years past. and that made it very nerve-wracking and very worrisome for parents who did not have Social Security numbers, for instance, or who did not file taxes. It made it really worrisome for them to apply for financial aid. And that is no longer the case, I'm very happy to say. So something to really take advantage of if your child is a dreamer, or even if you do not have a Social Security number, not a problem. Okay, here in New Jersey, you're good to go. So I want to flip over now to sort of the core of this and check my time, Nicole. I think I'm at 7:03. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. So what I've talked about in prior slides was an overview of the process, and the county colleges have an application process. It is straightforward. It requires attention and care. However, it is a lot more streamlined and a lot easier. It's different from more streamlined and simpler than the process of getting into the college application process for a four-year institution, whether it be public or private. So an example of a private school, again, would be, for instance, a Seton Hall or Columbia or Haverford or Williams College or Yale. All the schools that certainly you've heard of, you know, those name brand schools, as well as the elite, smaller liberal arts schools that have a ton of money to give to students that they want to welcome to their campuses, right? Those are all private schools. And then we have your state, your flagship state schools. Rutgers, right, is our flagship state university system that has really good graduation rates, right, that we saw on one of the slides. Rutgers is a state institution. University of Michigan is a state institution. University of Texas in Austin, that's a really hot school these days. Everyone seems to want to move to warmer climates. So the university system of California, that's also their flagship states. UCLA, Berkeley, that's part of that flagship state system. So this process that I'm going to now focus on for about the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'll try to speak a little bit quicker too, concentrates on the application process for those four-year colleges, both private and public. You could probably read the slide, and if you have just any reactions, maybe to where I say standardized assessments, great opportunity, I say, and 3 exclamation points. Maybe you're asking, what does she mean by that? SATs, great opportunity? I can't actually wait to talk about that. This is also something very important in the process, a special talent portfolio. If you have a student that excels in a sport, wonderful. Those are, you know, we know those students kind of thing. They're really, leveraged and elevated in schools. But what about the students that are also really good in the arts? Let's say they dance, or they play a musical instrument, or they draw, or let's say they're really committed to helping in their communities, right? This is considered also very important for the application process for these very elite competitive schools. And this is what goes into a special talent portfolio. Nicole, I'm just going to ask you if you could interrupt me if you do see a question or something comes up that you think I should respond to.
Okay.
Don't hesitate. So this slide's a little bit dense, but I do want to kind of circle and highlight these sort of big blue words. Prepare for these, I say on the left, and then there's a do now on the right. I want to start with a prepare for these. Out of curiosity, I want to ask how deep I should dive into this list. And for that reason, I'm going to ask you parents if you could please let Nicole know in the chat what grade is your student, or if you're a student, what grade are you in? Okay, and if you could please let us know that. If 9th grade, freshman, 10th grade, sophomore, junior, 11th grade, or if you're a senior parent, if your child is a senior, 12th grade, please let us know. And students, don't hesitate, right? So that's really important for me to understand. If there are some senior parents here today, and Nicole, does it look like there are any senior parents?
So we have one senior parent. We have someone from 10th grade, 9th grade, and 11th grade.
Awesome. Okay, great. So the senior parent may already know this. So I am going to speak, try and speak as generally, but also with an eye towards some noteworthy points. And I want to start with the SATs. I had that on the prior slide, as you remember, with great opportunity and 3 exclamation points. And kids, I haven't really met a kid yet in the thousands I've worked with that really love taking the SATs or the ACTs. You know, that these are these big standardized tests that are 2.5 hours long. If you count the breaks, 3. They're really high stakes, and they can be really, just anxiety provoking for the kids, right? So why would I say that there's an opportunity there? It's because of the pandemic. So what happened was, during the pandemic, the kids were no longer able to take the SATs in those test sites, right? Whether it be in school or independent sites around the state. And because of that, the schools were no longer, the colleges were no longer able to require SATs as part of the application. So what that meant was, all the kids that would have been really worried about their preparation for the SAT and whether they studied enough, and just, there's a lot of anxiety again around taking these high stakes tests. Those kids now had an opportunity to build up all the other parts of their application, their essays, their resumes with all their achievements and awards and service, their teacher recommendations that showed how they were in school in their classes, right? Just as a for example, right? So because the schools no longer required them, students were able to really beef up these other parts of their application. And that was, in so many cases, their doors opening to colleges that in the past may not have worked out because they had such high thresholds, benchmarks for their SATs. So for instance, there are some schools that were out there, you know what they are, those Ivy League schools like a Yale, the average SAT score might have been, prior to the pandemic, like a 1570 out of 1600, right? And I know a lot of kids that have achieved even, that 1570 or 1600, but guess what? The playing field was now leveled, right? So that the kids had other opportunities to be able to get in. So what does that mean for your kids? So if you're the parent of a junior or a sophomore, I would say, keep in mind that your student may, with preparation, with being able to know that they've really worked hard and prepared, they know the strategies, they know the timing, they're able to take it digitally starting next year. That's a big deal, being able to take it on a computer instead of those silly pencils and bubble sheets, right? That's a big improvement, a lot of kids feel and parents feel, right? So encourage your kids to really take advantage of all the opportunities to study for the SAT, right? Khan Academy is free. I know for a fact that Khan Academy can raise a student's score by 100 points or more, right? If the student just takes the time, carves out the time in their daily routine to work on the problems that are different. Schoolhouse Khan Academy. And after those scores come out, you can then decide, you can determine along with your high school counselor or from an independent counselor, I would be happy to weigh in if it would be helpful, whether you should be submitting those scores to the colleges, right? So you should know one other thing. There is, I mentioned the University of California system, right? That would be Berkeley, for instance, UCLA, Los Angeles. University of California, blind, not even optional, because test optional means you can submit, and if you decide to submit your scores, the schools will review them, will look, right? California is test blind, and test blind means that they will not even accept the SAT scores. They don't care. They don't want to know. Don't even They have removed that as a criteria for deciding whether a student is worthy of admission. They're using all the other parts of this application, or these determine admissibility. Okay, so the only other thing, test optional, test blind, go ahead and study for the tests, freshmen, sophomores, you're going to be taking these, or you've already taken the PSATs actually, and you have your scores. Don't sweat it if you haven't done as well as you would like. Study hard, prepare, get ready for the SATs, which you'll take through school, and then you'll be able to decide whether to submit or not. But know that a lot of colleges do not weight these scores as highly. What you can focus on, what you can do, this is probably the thing that I love mentioning the most, because it really comes from a lot of the Columbia students that I've worked with over the years, and the students that have gotten into their #1 schools of choice. And that is your grades. Your grades are the one big thing that you have control over, that you can own. That transcript, and your transcript with your cumulative GPA, grade point average, cumulative means it's not just for junior year, it's not just for sophomore year, but it is the compilation of all the years that you've attended high school. So if you had a really great freshman year, followed by another really great sophomore year and a great junior year, you're good to go, right? You're in that 90 percentile or higher, you're good to go, great. What if you didn't start off so strong, and maybe, you have an upward progression? I don't know if you could see my hands, right? So you have an upward trend. That also counts. But know that the last grades that a college admissions officer will see are the grades for your junior year. They will not see your senior year grades, right, until after you've actually already submitted your application. And especially if you do something called early decision, which is going for maximizing your application for some of the big name schools, the designer schools, the Ivy Leagues, the elite schools. So the due dates for that application will be November 1st. I just want to throw that out there, right? So it's really soon. Parents of juniors, soon to be seniors, right? So definitely take some time to plan. Plan for activities that you really care about, not just to put on your resume, students and parents, not so that they can list it, but really that are aligned with who they are as people and what's important to them. So for instance, there are students that really enjoy helping younger students with school, mentoring, as I mentioned before, even tutoring. Encourage your student to keep up with those kinds of activities. Other students are really good with participating in bake sales or car washes. They know how to raise money for a school. They know how to do a soup or canned food drive or a coat drive, right? That's a different kind of a talent. And if your student likes organizing those kinds of events, encourage your student to do that. Students really take the opportunity to know what's going on in your school so that you can make a difference. You want to make that name for yourself as early as possible. A lot of information. So to go quickly through these last couple of slides, what can you do to increase your college knowledge? Attend college fairs. College fairs are an opportunity for schools to literally show up in one place, and for the student, and I do encourage that the student have the conversations with the college admissions representatives, to engage with them, tell them a little bit about themselves, for students to really tell them what they are looking for, what they want to study. Let's say they know a school offers this amazing opportunity to take part in the United Nations, and they would like to be a future ambassador. They want to be involved in diplomacy and world affairs, right? And they want into a program, for instance, at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and they want to know more about that. That's a perfect opportunity to ask a college admissions officer about their interests. Okay, so these are some fairs coming up. The 15th, you've got virtual college fair. These are all again on Zoom. All you have to do is literally register and you queue up according to your registration for the colleges that you're interested in talking to. And there are 3 more coming up, and this is certainly something great that is a continuation of something that happened over the pandemic. Even better, the real in-person college fairs are back. And so far, the one that I've been told that will happen is in April 20th, happening over in Secaucus at the Meadowlands Exposition Center. 2 time slots, 9 to 12 and 5 to 8. And this is a really great opportunity for your student to get comfortable with the idea of talking to an adult, to a college admissions person live. And this is, they don't expect your student to know everything. They don't expect your student to be, anything other than who they are. But there are a few things that parents, you can help your students do. Help them to be respectful. Help them to refer to the college admissions officer as Mr. or Ms. or Mrs., right? That's usually the way that it can go. You may have a college admissions rep that says, no, just call me Anna, for instance, whatever the case may be. But again, that tone of respect is important. You could also teach them to start to talk about themselves and what they're interested in learning about, right? Help them organize questions. Help them with researching a school. Your student may be really interested in MIT, and you wonder why Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Like, you've heard of it, right? You've heard these amazing things happen, but what are the specifics about why MIT? So help your student, encourage them to look on that school's website and find very specific things about that school that they want to know more about, that they have questions about. A fair is also a great opportunity to review these view books. These are these brochures, these beautiful 4-color, really well produced items for reading that will really use you. Also, advise your student to use their social media accounts to follow schools. Follow on Instagram, like their Facebook pages. They have a LinkedIn, they can follow a school on LinkedIn. And the reason that is because they're trying to find out specific information about the school that will actually assist them in writing the college-specific essays known as supplements. Okay, so that's like, if I could kind of stand up and shout and say, this is so important, it would be this, because I will say that when it comes time to work on the Common App, and we'll talk about that a little bit, one of the things that the students struggle with the most is writing these essays. Doing this research, doing this now, while the timing is to uncover those facts about a school that really make your student like a school and want to be there. I hope.
Maria, I don't know if you can hear me. It looks like, give me 1 second. Looks like we may have some technical difficulties. Maria, can you hear me? Let's see. Just bear with us 1 second, guys.
And
Maria, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, I can see you now.
Great. Thank you for your patience.
Sorry, everyone.
Okay, so just to finish up on the how to make college fairs and the college process more efficient, help your student to stay organized by making that file both a hard copy as well as a computer, folder where you put everything related to that to make it easy to access when the students to start writing that essay that I mentioned before. So Common App is something else I want to shout out. Some of you parents may remember a time when you had to submit college applications with pieces of paper, typing in information and then hard copy out. That thankfully is no longer the case. Everything is now on a computer, and one of the prime portals again, on
It looks like we're having some more technical difficulties.
very complete, right?
Maria, are you able to hear me? Once again, guys, I'm so sorry about this. Looks like we're having some more technical difficulties. Maria, can you hear me? Okay.
I can. So let me go
Okay,
on
great.
with the Common App. So Common App, as I was starting to say, is really straightforward, or it looks very simple and streamlined, right? Students will put their information into this portal, into various screens. And these are examples that I'm showing you here, right? Family information, family background, history, so forth, right? But it also requires all the detailed information about a student's academic profile, the activities, each of the classes that they're taking, an explanation of everything that they're doing or have done in school since freshman year. And that part can be time consuming, but the hard or the challenging part is not so much about the putting in the information, it's really the quality of the information and what information should be submitted as far as that that personal stuff that will elevate a student. Okay, so as a for instance, I had mentioned personal statements before. A lot of students struggle with the idea of what do I write for a 650 word essay, right? A lot of college counselors were overwhelmed by students who wrote about what their experiences were during the pandemic with Zoom learning. And since so many students who were not, they weren't sure about what to write, and because they focused on the challenges of Zoom learning and being going to school virtually, they did not help themselves in differentiating themselves from their competition, right? So instead, there are ways of elevating a student's essay by talking about the things that really make them special. Here's a for example. I have a student, Alicia, and she wrote about the fact that her brother was imprisoned. He was incarcerated falsely, right? So her brother in her sophomore, her 10th grade, was sent to jail on false pretenses. He was, it was heartbreaking for her and her family. And what she decided to do because of that was she decided to pursue a course of study that she would be able to make an impact on the judicial system, right? She wanted to be able to have an impact on the laws, on the state laws of New Jersey, to be able to perhaps serve as a judge, right? So this is an example of a student taking a very heartbreaking event, something very personal and something very difficult, but using that as the launching pad, as the topic for talking about her own dreams and aspirations and what she wanted to accomplish in college and beyond. Okay, so that's an example of something that is appropriate and is powerful to discuss in a personal statement. Fee
Maria,
waivers are up here in a family section because if you do just
Maria, it sounds like your audio is going in and out just a bit. Can you hear me? Let's see. I'm sorry, everyone. Once again, we're having some technical problems. Maria, are you able to hear me? So it looks like Miss Friss may have just lost connectivity. We're going to give her a few more minutes, see if she is able to come back on. So please bear with us. I do apologize for any inconvenience. Okay.
Okay,
Maria,
everybody, taking a
just to
deep breath and powering through to the last.
Just to let you know, for time, Maria, we're at 7:30.
So I'll speed through these last couple of slides and also let you know that I'm happy to send you a copy of the presentation so you have a version to be able to help. And since Nicole has your registration information, I'd be happy to send you an email copy of this. But just to shout out, keeping your family and your student organized, and that includes gathering all the documents that showcase your students' accomplishments, right? Helping your student apply for local internships, since experiential learning is super important. Okay, that could mean volunteering at your church, mosque, or synagogue, volunteering at the library, really focusing on things that your student can do to make an impact on the community is also very important to positioning them well for college applications. Know what their strengths and weaknesses are, and really plan to have an honest discussion with your student about their. You may see that they are already on a good track. They have a really good chance of earning a lot of financial aid, merit scholarships because of great grades, already a strong portfolio in the making. You may see that they're on this really great track, and you may want them and see their potential to go to a very prestigious college, elite college. And certainly that is something that you should pursue in speaking with your child's teachers, counselor, if you know who he or she is in school. Certainly I would be happy to speak with you about that. Kids really need those broad horizons. If your kid has access to older siblings or older family members who have applied to or gone through college, make sure you create the space for those connections. Let those conversations happen. Oftentimes kids really want to hear from near peers, people that are not that much older than them in some cases, so that they could learn from them, right? They could learn from their experiences. And also be mindful of the time that your student spends on family activities. So for instance, if your child takes care of other siblings, or they work and their earnings, the money they make goes towards the family well-being, those things are all very, very important for the college application process and will be counted very well. But make a note of those, how much time your child is spending on those things, because that will certainly be taken into account for the application. I want to wish you good luck to do early, and in so will really enjoy a bit more. Parents, seniors, I think there was one parent, if you haven't already exhausted the schools to apply to, here's Seton Hall making a pitch for themselves that it's basically, you have till March 1st to submit an application. So you could really see that it's not too late even for parents of senior financial. That's considered on a rolling basis. You want to get your FAFSA in as quickly as possible after October 1st. So shifting back to the juniors, start collecting all your financial documents, your income documents, your W-2, your 1040 tax filing for 2020, right? And 21, you want to have all those documents together. So that when the FAFSA opens on October 1st, this is parents of seniors to be, you'll be able to start that process. Thank you again for your patience and listening to some of these tips on the process. Please do feel free to follow my Instagram, my Facebook, College Sesame, and for liking my page. That would also mean an awful lot to me. And I am wondering, since we are so into the time, sort of restriction, Nicole, whether it would make sense for the parents to put in their questions and for me to be able to answer them separately in an email going out to all the parents, whether that would make more sense.
Sure. If that's okay with everyone, if you want to submit your questions via chat, I can take them, and I can also email them to you directly, Maria.
Yes, and I would accompany that with the presentation so that they would have access to that as well.
Okay. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat, and I will forward all those questions to Maria, and she will get back to us.
Nicole, I'll stay on for a little bit longer, if that's okay.
Okay. Sure.
After everyone else left. Thank you, everyone, so much.
I want to thank everyone for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this. It was very informational. It was great. And again, if you have any questions for Maria, please feel free to put them in the chat.
Oh, Nicole, I also forgot to mention something earlier for the parents who would benefit. There are some links that I would be able to provide for instance, for the FAFSA that are guides on how to complete FAFSA in Spanish. And I know for a fact that those are helpful for parents, and I would include those the information for those links. And some of them are YouTube.
Oh, great.
So let me see actually if I can.
If you want to include that with the presentation, I can also forward that in the email to everyone. It looks like we're having some more technical difficulties.
What I was mentioning.
El programa es un repaso.
Okay. Maria, I can see your screen. I don't know if we're frozen. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to stop the recording for now.